I am Jim Collison, and this is the Wellbeing at Work with CliftonStrengths podcast, recorded on February 25th, 2022. In this Clifton Strengths podcast, we'll look at the strengths, insight, and action planning items from Appendix 1 in the Gallup book, Wellbeing at Work, one theme at a time, and today's theme is includer. If you're listening live, love to have you join us on our chat room. There's just a link right above us there. You can jump into that. Join us in the YouTube chat. If you're listening after the fact and you've got some questions, you can always send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. Dr. Jacqueline Robinson is our host today. She worked as a Gallup Learning and Development consultant and was the primary contributor to Appendix 1 in the Wellbeing at Work book. And Jacqueline, always great to see you, and welcome back.
Thank you, sir. It's good to be here. Happy Friday.
Good to have you. Happy Friday to you as well. We are talking about includer. How about the definition of that? Let's get started with that.
Yes. So people that lead with the includer theme accept others. They show awareness of those who feel left out and make an effort to include them.
I had an admin who has this number one, and she was fabulous at reminding me, like, hey, think about these people, right? Super helpful talent for me, because that gets good at process, not as good at the people sometimes. Let's talk a little bit about how it relates to you and how it relates to others.
How it relates to you. So you likely feel at your best when you can lead with an arms wide open nature. Events where, all are welcome, or meetings where all can be heard might just light up your day. How it relates to others, I think about the perception people feel. So others feel seen, heard, and valued when you're around because of your ability to hone in on who hasn't had a voice at the table. So you really help create the sense of belongingness for others.
Not that we haven't had an event over the last 2 years that's separated us in many ways. And I think there's some superpowers involved in this includer theme. And I think it's one that doesn't get talked about enough, or doesn't get enough mojo is the word I would use on that. So excited about talking about it. As we think about includer in this area of well-being, let's talk a little bit about as it's thriving, and then versus what does it look like when it's suffering?
Thriving is when there's this culture of belongingness, and that is valued in their family life, in their community, in the workplace. And they're able to bring the right people to sit at the table, whether that's the family table or the round table. Struggling is when you sense that people don't feel valued or heard, or maybe favoritism is occurring, or the sense of belongingness within your environment hasn't quite taken, what's a good word for it? Taken wind, where other people are really bought in, or it's just happening in chunks here and there, and you really just want to see it spread like a wildfire. So that could be frustrating.
Could it also be frustrating when people are purposely or intentionally or systematically being excluded in situations? And so includers may feel that they want to include, and the systems around them, right?
Yes.
Maybe excluding on purpose. Not that we haven't been talking about that here in the United States for the last 2 years, right? But very, very important as we think about including. Anything else you want to add to that?
That's such a good call out. And it really is their time to shine right now, because even if maybe leadership, wherever leadership is, whether it's government, state, or in the workplace, if they're not necessarily bought into the sense of belongingness, people are. And so includers can really be that voice for the people at this point in time.
We have some best practices in the back of the book in Appendix 1, where we break that down by each element of well-being. Jacqueline, which one have you picked for us today?
I picked community. So this person would be great at bringing people together at a town hall or community event where a broad mix of people can share their opinions and concerns. They thrive when asked to do this. So anytime that they can invite people in is a very happy circumstance for this individual. Birthday party, could be anything.
Yeah, and I think sometimes in the sense of also having opportunity, right? Not to invite just to invite, but to include, to also partake in the opportunities that are available in whatever's happening in that. I think there's a sense of, for those with high includer, there's this sense of almost like with an empathy that has this human element to it. They can feel when the group's not complete. or we're leaving people out. Or
Hmm.
think about groups where there's, a big room and lots of people, and certain people begin to congregate together. It just naturally happens, right?
Yes. The
And then
middle
they
school dance, which probably globally we all are familiar with the middle school dance. People on both sides just staring at each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
They sense that
you've
for
you've
sure.
got some natural coagulation of people together, right? They begin to clump together. Then
Hmm.
on the fringes, there's always maybe some individuals that they're not fitting in, or they're not feeling like they're fitting in. And I think
Yes.
those with includer bring sense that pretty quickly, and are able to find ways to bring them into the group. I struggle with that. I mean, I have it. It's mid, and sometimes I do it, but sometimes if I'm busy, I'll bypass it. And I think those with includer high are able to sense that pretty quickly in
Yes.
a room. So
I agree.
we have four other elements and four other examples as we think about those elements of well-being there in the back of the book, well-being at work. So Jacqueline, with this idea of includer in mind, how can we
Yeah.
really use that? We just talked about using it to support others by including them in group settings, but how else can we
Hmm.
use that to really support others?
If you're a manager, you're leading a team, because includers do have that spidey sense for who should be included, this would be an opportune time to just consider other cross functional teams who should be included in your own team's
Mm.
goal setting or planning. So everyone's in alignment with goals, challenges, and so forth. If you're on a team, who on the team is more reserved or introverted? And again, being able to check in with them and see what their thoughts and ideas are helps them feel valued. And that might even help pull them out of their shell a little bit if they're just uncomfortable, maybe sharing with people until they have that warm and welcome feeling. As an individual, who would be great to include as an accountability partner, champion, or thought partner in your own life? See, I think includers are great at including others in conversation and goal setting. This would be a good way to personalize it and apply those same skills.
I love the very first one you give about what other teams. We
Hmm.
often talk about this in the context of individuals, but I love in group settings as a manager, maybe a manager of managers. Which
Yes.
groups, which teams do I have that should be included in these processes, these procedures, these conversations, and how do we include those
Yes.
teams into the conversations? I've been, for whatever reason, lately, I've been talking with folks about this, about doing CliftonStrengths discovery in organizations where you have kind of disparate teams around, and
Hmm.
mixing them together for discovery so that so you don't have the same teams talking to the same people about, I
Yes.
mean, and it's important to do it from a team setting, but they're around each other every day. But using that discovery across teams to get cross-functional talk
Yes.
going, maybe between accounting and manufacturing or
It's so
something, right?
valuable. Way to
And
break
you
down silos and just create value and appreciation for what other people do.
Yeah, and maybe a little includer exercise, right? To begin to
Hmm.
say, "Hey, I didn't know you did these kinds of things in accounting." Maybe some of those kinds of things to help bring some synergy, some
Yes.
efficiencies, right, to the
Build the
process.
bridge.
Yeah, no, I love that. Love it. We in Appendix 2 in the back of the book, we have a framework that you can kind of work through. Let's give an example of that as we think of includer. Walk us through that framework.
Hmm. I think for this one, I selected quite a few from the career well-being piece. But ask yourself, do I encourage my team members to pause and celebrate their achievements? Um, Ask your team members, of all the things you do well in your job, which ones do you do best? And take action by creating
Mm.
opportunities for people to learn about one another, their work, and their lives. So all of those questions and actions have a sense of inclusiveness where people are getting to learn and celebrate one another.
Let's dig in on the team members for a second. I get to do what I do best. Expand on that a little bit for me, because that's when we
Hmm.
think about inclusion, or we think about including people in things at this point. How do those two put those two together for me with a little more detail? How does that come together?
Yes. So if an includer even initiates a team meeting where they say, let's all go around and share out what it is that we do best so we can make sure that we are all recognizing how we contribute in our
Mm,
unique ways to the team. But also, there might be a project you're working on and you're used to doing it as a lone wolf. Now you know who you could loop in and include into that process because they're saying, "Hey, I do this really well." You've probably observed that they've done it really well. And so now you are extending your partnerships, whereas before you might have been more focused on self and not partners or the team.
I've found when we would do manager retreats, and while I don't manage anyone directly at Gallup
Hmm.
anymore, I do manage the 12,000 certified coaches around the world that do that. But I found it helpful that they'd include me. One, I could hear what they're talking to the managers about company vision, but it also gave me a good opportunity to hear other people's perspectives of what's going on in the organization, and then helped educate me both on where to take this program for our
Yeah,
certified coaches, as well as maybe some potential guests for the future, right? You'd see
I like
somebody, you'd
it.
be like, oh, they're really good. We should
Yes.
do this. So again, that cross-functional, I didn't have to be there,
Yes.
but we have a culture of inclusion. I'll use that in a sense, and that maybe some people may see inclusion different than the way we're talking about inclusion from a DEI perspective. But
Mhm.
for a second, let's just suspend that. That's probably a whole nother
Mhm.
conversation. But that inclusion for me of being able to be involved in the conversation made this product better, not intentionally, right? They didn't say, "Oh, let's add Collison in here so that he'll make a better product," but
Yes.
that inclusion made it a better product. Jacqueline, anything along those lines as we
That's
kind of
good.
wrap this? Anything you want to close this with?
I like those key words that we've just been talking about in our last few minutes together of just cross-functional relationships and the sense of inviting in different perspectives, which is something that comes natural to an includer, but they have that capacity to have other people think outside of the box too and recognize the value of others. So
Well, with that, we'll
I'll
remind
close
everyone
there.
to take full advantage of all the resources we do have available now in Gallup Access, and we want to include everyone in that. So head out to gallup.com
Arms wide open.
slash Clifton Strengths for coaching, master coaching, or if you want to become a Gallup certified strengths coach, we do that as well. You can send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. We'll get the right information out to you. You can join us on any social platform by searching Clifton Strengths. And we do want to kind of let even those folks listening live, we'll cut this part out of the recorded version. But if you're listening live and you haven't subscribed to the Clifton Strengths podcast, these are getting edited and put in there. And so you might want to get subscribed to that now. We have a couple out there already, and we're publishing a new one every week.
Mm.
Just go out to your favorite podcast app and search the Clifton Strengths podcast and get subscribed today so you never miss an episode. If you're listening live, stay around for a little bit of mid show. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.